Scott Jennings says Trump admin believes American dream shouldn't be dependent on buying cheapest junk from enemy. And I agree with Scott Jennings. That's exactly what Trump is saying. And I agree with Trump in that sentiment. We shouldn't be reliant on our enemy. We shouldn't be reliant on China for everything. I talked about this before. I said it before. What happens if we actually go to war with China? And all our medication comes from China. All of our supplies, all of our major manufactured supplies come from China. So how would that work? So I agree. We shouldn't be reliant on China. We shouldn't be reliant on our enemy. So we're gonna play the clip. We're gonna talk about it. Y'all know how I feel about Scott Jennings. I love Scott Jennings. I hope they talk about him running for some type of office. I can't remember if it's for Senate or if it's for Congress or something like that. I'm hoping he don't. I like what he's doing. I like him being the reasoned brain on CNN. So again, we're going to talk about it, but before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button, share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon, and that's where I'll talk about things that I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my X account. So follow me there as well. All right, so let's get into this news. Now, this comes from the Daily Caller. And they report that Republican strategist Scott Jennings said on Wednesday that the president said that President Donald Trump's administration is not defining the American dream by the ability to purchase, quote, cheap junk possible from China. Trump has faced criticism for repeatedly stating that children may end up with fewer dolls and at higher prices due to his tariffs on China. Jennings argued that the arena that Trump and Treasury Secretary Scott Besset's message is that the American dream means making high quality goods in the U.S. for a reasonable wage. So let's watch this clip here. Here we go.
So, Scott Jennings, this is the first time I've had you at the table, I think, since the president started talking about no dolls for you, or $2 for you, I guess is the phrase. Scott Bessent was asked about what the president's been saying about dolls when he was on Fox News last night. Let's watch what Bessent said.
I would tell that young girl that you will have a better life than your parents, that you and your family, thanks to President Trump, can now be confident again that you will have a better life than your parents, which working class Americans had abandoned that idea. Your family will own a home. You will be able to advance. You will have a good education. You will have economic freedom. That's what we are advancing.
So I think I'm starting to understand why so many Republicans that I talk to like to see Scott Bessent as the face of the administration, because, I mean, that does seem to be the underlying message for the tariffs. Why is it so hard for the president to say that himself?
Well, the president has taken a very hard line on China. He doesn't think they're good actors, and he thinks that they need to be dealt with in a harsh way. And so
but he's not talking about the Chinese when he's talking about these dolls. He's talking about kids.
But he is.
He is talking about the Chinese.
You don't need the
She don't get it. She can't be this dumb. He's absolutely talking about the Chinese because they're the ones that produce these products. That's the reason why these products are so cheap, is because we import it from China. And he's saying, since we're going to no longer be importing these goods from China, we're going to have to produce them here. So the cost is going to go up a little bit. So you're not going to be able to have 30 dolls like you normally purchase 30 cheap dolls. You can purchase 2 or 3 good dolls, that aren't made cheap. Then it might be a little bit more pricier. That's what we're talking about here. That's what he's saying. How is that so difficult to understand? I don't get it.
the junk. You can have $2 instead of 30.
Well, I think when you put his comments together with Secretary Bessent, what they're saying is the American dream is not solely based on our ability to get the cheapest junk we can from China. The American dream is built on us not being reliant on our enemy, but having jobs here, having better jobs here, having a better pathway for your family to make a better living for yourself. That has nothing to do with being able to get cheap junk from China. So I do think what their message is rooted in has to do with a long-term statement about what constitutes the American dream. And don't fall into the trap of believing that we have to be reliant on our enemy for you to have a dream of what? Owning a bunch of junk? The dream is we make stuff here, it'll be high quality, and the people who make it will make a fair wage. That's the American dream.
I think it's even broader than that, too. It's not just about the dolls, I think. It's how much pain are people willing to take for this notion of making America better? How much pain are people going to take in their wallets for this nebulous value
I mean, I think
the American dream that Scott's talking about?
It seems.
What are you talking about? Nebulous value? It's not nebulous. It's where where the middle class actually have a successful life where we're not struggling. That's what we're talking about. The average American have a job that produces where they can provide for their family. That's what we're talking about here.
Seems like the right political message might be able to convince people. I mean, we've seen plenty of periods in American history where people have been willing to say, okay, you know, I got to buckle down and support what the country's doing. I think my point is, like, the president's not making that argument.
Well, I think he's trying to make the argument, but couching it in a lot of other nonsense. I mean, Scott Bessent did sort of lay that out there, but I actually think it's a big thing to ask people who are suffering or struggling financially to say, no, this is about the American dream, or this is about a broader American value. If people in their pocketbooks today are hurting, that's a lot to swallow.
Can I just add one thing? This is really not about dolls or junk. It's about penicillin, which, you know, a lot of our medication gets made in China now. It's about car parts. It's about phones. Those are things. It's not about, you know, you only get 2 dolls.
I agree with you.
The family goes out to buy a car.
But you're raising.
It was similar. It's just a way that you can explain it. He just broke it down where people can understand. But even these pundits here can't understand what he was trying to say. We get what he was trying to say. We need to start producing things here. In the meantime, things are going to get a little bit more expensive because of these tariffs until we're able to start manufacturing things here. And that'll be more jobs for people, more jobs for Americans. I don't know why they act like they can't understand that.
Raising the correct point. Is it good for us to be reliant on our enemy for medicine and car parts and things that go into national security implements? It's not about the dolls. It's about everything else. And we're so entangled with people who cheat and who are ultimately our enemy on the world stage. Detangling us and making us not reliant on our enemy is the point. And I know it's a hard message, but that's what leadership means. Going out and giving a hard message when it will be to the benefit of the country long term.
But he's not giving, he's actually not telling the American people how long this pain will happen. What does the pain look like? You know,
we don't. How are we supposed to know that? How are we supposed to know how long this is going to last? How long is it going to take to negotiate this? It's going to take months, possible a couple of years. You know, it's impossible to like come out and say, okay, this is going to be a week of pain. Like, how can you say something like that? She's not making. She's not. That's not a good faith argument.
those are the things that the American people want to hear. This is why they don't agree with him on this right now.
And it's pain today. That's the thing. Getting people to swallow their own pain.
We are not necessarily, as Americans, collectively known for our patience.
Yes.
She's not lying about that. It's not going to be easy. We know that it's not going to be easy, but we're going to be better off for it not having to rely on China. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Leave y'all comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe. And check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.